Fred, you there still?
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the stream. I think Fredrick is probably fucking around with his sound or something like that. But
yeah, he does
how's it
that.
going, Chris?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. What's up? Let's check out the chat here.
Yeah.
People in here. Hey, Faye, how's it going? And A Natos. I haven't seen you around here before, but maybe I have. I have short-term memory loss, and I smoke a good amount of weed, so that could definitely affect me remembering if you were here before or not. But we got a bunch of things on the docket for today. I think I want to maybe stream snipe. What do you call it? Brighton Cherrier or whatever, or not? I don't know. That seems kind of petty. Maybe I won't.
Come on,
dog news. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Don't be a pussy. Let's go over and see what the
So tell me what's involved with the stream snipe. Excuse me. What's the rules of engagement on a stream snipe?
It's just going on their stream and then watching what they're doing on their stream on your stream.
And then making snide comments, I imagine, to
maybe making snide comments.
Yes. Got it. Yes. Okay.
Have your chat. Hey, Brian, how's it going, buddy? Lanciopia, your dog news. No. But yeah.
Okay. He's having mic problems.
Okay.
Well, so are you. So I'm not sure.
You're one to talk.
No. Oh, I can. My mic is perfect. I got my voice meter running perfectly.
Well, either ways, I think I'm just going to keep continuing on.
Well, don't play it. I'll share it. I'll share the screen so we can actually see it.
Okay.
If you're gonna play it in the background or something, but maybe we'll start by stream sniping Brighton Cherrier while some people get in here. A few more people get in, but we'll see what he's up to. And I recommend you guys go and downvote his video. That guy, we should watch like a clip of yesterday or something. Is my screen even sharing right now? I don't think it did.
No, not yet.
No, it's being laggy. Okay, here it is. There we go. Let's see here. So Brighton, let's see what you're. So what do you think about Faith Goldie?
It's a very complicated matter, but just they accuse me of exploiting their deaf, and it's just stupid. I just simply said in the video, like, hey, we haven't talked to each other in a while, so let's hopefully talk to each other in the future. So
let's want to see him.
Yeah, that's basically all it was. I had to deal with that today.
Come on.
A message saying like, hey, listen, I understand it's a very hot topic right now.
This is gonna get boring really quickly.
He looks boring.
If he doesn't address my comment,
just tell him like we want the truth about faith. Just hammer him on the faith stuff until he finally has to say something.
Guys, with all due respect, I don't mean to be rude to you guys, but this thing is being really bipolar, and I really don't care. But if it scratches,
oh shit! Let's do some incentive.
Don't worry, Nishna. Okay, I don't know if this is.
I can't take any more of this. I can't take any more of this.
That's pretty terrible.
No, I thought it'd be funnier, but his mic is too bad for me to even sit through any of that. I'm not gonna subject people to that. That's not very nice. But hey, boss man, how's it going, buddy? Brighton is live now. Yeah, I know, Faye. Hey, Jay, you're working hard again. Thank you, Burnout Rage. Yeah, I was getting pretty tired. I was like, am I going to do something? But, I had like an hour or so before the stream started. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go through a bunch of stuff. I had it kind of saved and whatnot. But, I have quite a few different things I guess we could talk about, or a few different ones, not too many. But let's see what we could start off with initially. I also got a video that I was going to do a stream on, potentially. And it's this whole thing with a bunch of gays from the left and the right, and there's like Blair White, and I think
Oh yeah, I saw that today.
Vice was hosting it, and I was watching. I thought it was funny. I'm like, it would be funny to comment through that or whatever, but maybe I'll do it solo or whatever another time or something, because 3 people, it's a little more difficult. But I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about? Have you heard about the Nike thing? The whole Nike shoe with. I guess we can start off with something American, the Betsy Ross shoe, and what is, first of all, what is your guys' opinion about that?
So do we want to show an image? I think I sent it to either of you to Telegram, but so I agree with you with your comment on Telegram. I think Nike doesn't give a shit. I mentioned this before. Corporations don't care about where you are on the social reliability scale. Like, oh, I'm a family man. They don't give a shit. They care only about the bottom line. So it's just, this will make them some money, and they'll ride it as long as they can. And it's a marketing pitch, right? It's bad publicity, but good enough to get people talking, and people are going to start buying the shit anyway. No one's going to burn their shoes. If they do, they're idiots, because might as well wear them out. But you can walk with your wallet and you can make choices. So I don't think it's foolish to see conservatives react in a way where the last time they started burning their shoes on the barbecue and cutting them in half. That's just silly, because you already paid for them, right? They're yours. So it's like the company got your money.
Yeah. Well, in this case with the shoe, though, they kind of intercepted it before even really. I mean, it went on sale, but like maybe a couple dozen maybe were sold out of whatever else.
I bet I agree with you.
Yeah, that's absolutely possible. But I agree with you, Fred, that it's. I mean, as a corporation, I mean, Nike. If they want to worry about improving the world, they need to worry about improving the working conditions in their factories, and maybe bringing some jobs back to the USA, back to America. But anyways, the virtue signaling is pretty ripe with these guys. They made a calculation to decide, okay, who's going to buy more of our product, and at least for the time being, and went all in on that. So I'm very skeptical about their desire for social justice improvements.
Oh yeah, it's all bullshit. It's clearly just for money, and I just don't like seeing Republicans play into their hands a lot of the times. Like, I have a tweet up by this I don't know what his name is, Doug Ducey, Deuce, I don't know, governor of Arizona, right, where he kicked out, he's not giving them, I don't know, subsidies or whatever to stay there, and I'm fine with that, to be honest, because like I have a whole issue with that, but in general, but nonetheless, it just makes them look stupid, as well as, if you are for a free market, if you are for small government, etc., you should be for, businesses being assholes and being like, we don't want to show this flag or something anymore, or we want to burn the flag. People should be, you see Trump and that sometimes saying like, oh, we should make it like illegal to burn the flag. Well, it's like, no, that's completely against the First Amendment as well, right? But these people, what they want, Nike wants Republicans to get mad, because that will get the left to go buy a bunch of Nike shoes to spite the right. They'll be like, oh, what's going to really piss off right wingers is wearing a bunch of Nike gear and whatnot, and that one football player's gear. That what's his name? The guy that got this whole thing, Colin Kaepernick, right? Yeah. So, that's the one thing. You just see this business, Nike. They're just going to make tons of money from this. And people are just idiots and stupidly playing into it. But
and I'm sharing an image of the offending part of the shoe now. Essentially, what really got people offended was that this was the original flag of the original 13 colonies of that became the United States. I think it's from 1791. And because it has the 13 states on it, but slavery was legal at the time, even in the North. So they're just offended that this flag is from a time when slavery was legal, because it reminds them that slavery was a thing. So that's their that's the social justice part of the argument that was made to Nike. And Nike said, "Yeah, well, okay. I mean, we kind of went all in on you guys. We went with the Kaepernick stuff back in the day, so we're all in. Let's go with it. Part of our business plan."
Yeah, I think it's just they know how to troll people, and they're trolling everybody really well with this right now. And they're going to make a lot of money probably with their new shoe that they're going to reveal. That's going to be like, I don't know, fuck the police or something like that. I don't know. But either way, that's just kind of like a dumb thing that I guess I kind of wanted to get out of the way. But did you guys hear about that recent poll that came out? It was about Canadians, how the majority of Canadians. It's funny how they frame the article. First of all, it's from CBC, but I'll share my screen with you. One sec here. But this is the article from the CBC, right? So it says the majority of Canadians against accepting more refugees, polls suggest, right? So this is the headline they went with. This is like the first line they went with. 76% of respondents say Canada should do more to encourage skilled labor immigration, right? So it still seems like people are fairly pro-immigration and whatnot. With these first couple of headlines, it's like, okay, they're just kind of like against refugees. But one of the main lines that I thought was kind of important was it said a little bit further down, 56% said that accepting too many immigrants will change Canada. So it's like that should be the headline, essentially, in my opinion. 56% said that accepting too many immigrants will change Canada. So that's not even illegal immigration. That's not refugees. That's just plain immigration, right? And that's a huge number. It's only going to grow. And you had this guy from the NDP, right? I'll go through most of the other article, but this guy, Bob Ray, I don't know if any of you guys are aware of him. Bob Ray, lawyer, professor, whatever. I don't know. I always see him on Twitter because
former premier of Ontario under the NVP, right. Former federal Liberal leader as an interim leader. So yeah, we know Bob Ray.
Right. So he's like, this is troubling, but not surprising. But we need to remind ourselves of those moments in time when we have responded with humanity and generosity, and the world is facing the greatest refugee crisis since the end of World War II. So he's just kind of like, hey, shame on you Canadians for neglecting these poor refugees that are coming into the country, blah, 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 right? But so it's like more than 3/4, 76% of respondents to a survey by Public Square Research agree that Canada should do more to encourage skilled labor immigration to the country. 57% said Canada should not be accepting more refugees. The results come as no surprise to immigration experts and advocates who point to a negative shift in tone on migration around the world, especially when it comes to refugees. They say that the trend is stoked by media coverage in Canada of asylum seekers crossing the country's border with the US. So, like, what do they want us to do? Not cover it? And they're barely even covering it. So they're like, don't even cover it at all. It's like, they should be covering it more. But one organization in Manitoba says it is seeing that shift firsthand. There's been a drastic decline in acceptance and the welcoming specifically of refugees. Yeah, because this is another thing. Like, okay, just like illegal immigration and stuff in America, people are going to be more suspicious of regular legal immigrants after a while because they're not going to be sure if you're a legitimate one or an illegal. Like, if you're like a Mexican, you're going to be like, get out of here, you illegal Mexican, where you're like, maybe you're legal. You're like, hey, well, don't get mad at them. Get mad at all the other fucking illegals there, right? So what's going to happen here legitimate refugees, well, quotation mark legitimate, they're going to be mixed up with the illegal border crossers, no, the illegal aliens crossing the border, right? So, police your group, and that way less people will assume bad things of you. But they should change the term of refugee to just permanent resident or something, because that's what they all become. They don't refuge here. They stay here forever. There's no returning. Sorry? I thought I heard something.
Fred, can you hear you, or are you having any audio problems? Just say something as a quick test.
No, I'm here.
Okay, you just got a little quiet there. Okay, go ahead.
The thing is, some people like myself and maybe others.
You're very low, just to be.
Yeah. Your voice is very quiet, Fred.
All right, hold on. This should be a little bit better, right?
A little.
Okay, so hopefully this is a little bit better.
Much better. Yeah.
Okay, I'm hitting the green, so I don't know. Up to 10 years ago, and I keep sounding like a broken record, that I've been saying that illegal and legal, and 10 years ago and more, the illegality of migration didn't seem to be a problem. But immigration in general was, because we just kept bringing in 250,000 people a year, and nobody batted an eye. Nobody thought that bringing immigrants from outside of Europe was going to be impacting the general cohesiveness of society, right? So both is a problem, illegal and illegal. To me, immigration overall is a problem, period. And it needs to go
and sound like a white supremacist.
Yeah, fine, whatever. Don't care.
Racist.
That's okay too. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, AJ.
Thank you, sir. Can I have another?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna tell Brighton on you.
But how long of a pause does it need to go on? I don't know, 10 years at minimum. So until the public knows exactly how much we actually need, and what the bringing of people with higher birth rates, how that's going to impact the age demographic model. And, are these people going to be engineers, doctors, people of necessity to run a fully functional society? They will never answer that. Exactly what Douglas Murray has said over and over in many chapters of his book. Nobody knows. They just keep bringing in people. And the only reason they're bringing in people is, like I said earlier, I believe in the case of Syria, they're going to empty Syria completely out, right? That'll make Israel happy. Now they're going to go after Iran. And we're going to have Iranian refugees. And they're going to empty that whole area of Iranians. Right? So they're reshaping the geosphere. Anyways, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Obviously, there's something going on. This massive shift, this mass migration. I think I saw a comment in the chat by Jamie Demeter about essentially, if I remember it, that the elitists are living in these communities, but they're not living, and telling people, hey, we need to have all this immigration, but they're not living in integrated communities themselves. They're living behind gates and fences. And if you look at it from a geopolitical perspective, you have certain countries that are where people are pushing these policies outside of their countries, but in their homelands, it's still very much an ethno state. Israel will be one. I'd say, look at Belgium, but and Switzerland maybe to a degree, where you have various geos, various intergovernmental associations that push this stuff. So I just find that very interesting that even from a country perspective, you have this perspective where these countries are saying, hey, or regions are saying, hey, yeah, you guys have to do all this stuff and take these people who don't share values. But
what is that noise? Is that Cringe? Who is that?
That's not me.
Fredrick, your mic is glitching out. Don't speak anymore. Wait. It's my voice. I can hear it.
Yeah, it's yours. I hear.
It's
Fred.
Fredrick.
No, it's your mic, Fred.
It's your.
Hold on. I'm just gonna.
Enough with your voice audio, Mike.
Okay, let's try it again.
Hello.
Okay, he disconnected. So now it sounds fine. Okay, he'll try reconnecting, I'm sure.
All right.
I don't know how much of any of that anybody heard, but
my real question though is, what do people think about the 57% of Canadians that think immigration is like changing the face of Canada? Will change the face of Canada, right? So 56% said that accepting too many immigrants will change Canada. So that didn't say negatively or badly, right? It's just asking, but it's just saying it will change it, right?
Yep, exactly. And that's kind of, and even that isn't a bad comment, because they are going to change it. Like, I mean, it's just numbers and demographics. Like, it's just in cultures, it's obvious it's going to change it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. But to me, that kind of goes into the same category as, we've talked about these things that cannot be questioned, right? So, the Jewish stuff, a variety of things going on there. Plus, then you have the, LGBT acceptance, not tolerance, but absolute acceptance regardless. And this is kind of falling into that as well, where now they're trying to put immigration from everywhere, regardless of skills, I'm not against immigration by any stretch. Otherwise, my family wouldn't be here. And many of our families wouldn't be here. But at the same time, there's skills. There's like, what is the value to the economy? What is the value to others? What is the compatible values? What do you believe? Are you going to contribute? Are you here to just take advantage? Most people
from the islands.
They're from around. I mean, a continent, kind of an island.
I don't know why I said that. I think it's from
it's
BM.
from BM. Carmen,
right.
Carmen, where in the world is Carmen San Diego? BM trying to do some kind of chat doxing. I don't know.
Right.
But anyways, yeah. I mean, North and South America together. I mean, you have the Panama Canal that kind of divided it. But so that's maybe North America and Central America are one island, and then South America is a different one. And anyways, so we're all from islands. But But anyways, so yeah, this is one of those things that cannot be questioned. And even when you put it in that perspective, AJ, it makes Bob Ray's comment in his tweet even more ridiculous, because it's like, it's changing, but it doesn't mean it's a bad change. It doesn't necessarily a negative connotation. Very interesting.
Yeah, like it's just they're just pointing out reality. Like 30% of them could be like, "This is
Are you ready?
This is negative." Is that Fred?
Obviously, that was Fred.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm bringing up something.
Okay, Fred. Just say a quick sentence, Fred, so we can hear if you're sounding any better here.
Yeah. No, I'm back. So
okay, good. Yeah, you sound fine now. Okay.
I wanted to share something.
Yeah, go ahead.
In tandem
still got the. Let me just finish off the article there. It's pretty much done. So yeah. So let me just go through some of this article here, though. Drastic decline in refugee, one organization. Okay, so she says that a decline has made some newcomers anxious. There is an internal struggle that I have really witnessed around whether or not people want to identify as refugees, she added. But yeah, Fredrick, I was going to ask, what do you think of the 56% of 56% said that accepting too many immigrants will change Canada?
Too low. Needs to be higher.
Okay, well, so I'm saying, like, yes, it's too low, but I'm like it's increasing. What do you think like of these numbers? That's it kind of thing?
It's still too low for me. I think that people would start reacting more. That number should be a lot higher at 70%. But and again, what's the other half? What are they comprised of? What's the breakdown? 56% of these people are composed of 20% white people and 10% of brown people.
Doesn't really matter if they want less immigration, right?
Well,
Hey, I have the same hoodie as this guy.
Huh?
I'm not even shitting you. I have this hoodie.
See, we are all the same.
No.
I'm more interested who the ones don't think it's an issue and what's their composition like. I still think the numbers too.
Right. But I think these numbers are increasing, and this is why this article is written, right? Because this is a trend, right?
Wait. Oh, hold on. I just realized something in the chat. BM Boss Man. Oh gosh, the investigation continues. Apparently, I'm from Guyana now. Last time I was from Jamaica. Okay, let's keep going.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
retracting messages. Yep, same guy. Yep. Okay.
So Christina Clark-Kazak, a University of Ottawa professor who specializes in refugees and immigration, said the survey results reflect a long-standing tradition of Canadian immigration policy being centered around labor market needs. Under both conservative and liberal governments over the past decade, economic immigrants have made up between 53 and 63% of immigrants each year. So that's like not a high number, right? So what? The 50 other percent were not within the last decade. That's a huge fucking number.
Yeah, and even then, that remaining 43%, maybe 20% are unsure, and then 20% are 23% are like, oh yeah, sure, no change, no immigration will absolutely not change anything.
But this is the 53% represents the amount of economic immigrants that have entered into Canada within the past decade, right?
All right.
That is the that's what so that means like 50% of them within the past decade essentially were elderly, people that were dependents, right? That were family or refugees, right? So and another thing is a lot of these people, they're not necessarily getting jobs. Right. I have another thing that I know Fredrick will like later that I just randomly found about China and all this business giving all these Chinese people fake jobs so they can get like permanent residency into Canada or something.
Sure.
But right. But respondents were asked to agree or disagree with the following statements. Well, hold on. I missed this part. The problem with a lot of immigration policy is we think about individuals in isolation and we think about them only as economic actors, she said. Well, that's how you should think about immigrants. Like 100%. What can you do for me? Not what can I do for you? You're immigrating to my country. There's a bunch of countries that you can immigrate to, or you can stay in your own country. Why the fuck should I be thinking, well, let's not think about what kind of money, who cares about the money it's going to cost us to bring these people in. Maybe they'll smile at you on the bus and make your day or something. Like, fuck off. No.
Those little moments where you get to share a Tim Hortons coffee or share a smile with somebody on the bus, and we're not so different after all,
right? See, this is what they mean. I see this. I have his hoodie. We have same hoodies. That's what they mean, right? That's the only benefit I'm getting from this. Like refugees, he added, are often seen as a nice to have by policymakers, but not a priority. Why would you prioritize refugees as your main source of immigrants? You fucking lunatic. Like, you're an idiot.
Come on, okay, man, you're not thinking like Israeli.
Like, they just think we're stupid. They just think we're stupid, and we are. But respondents, respondents were asked to. Well, I'm not stupid, but respondents were asked.
I'm saying in general, right? Fuck.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Yeah, I know. But respondents were asked to agree or disagree with the following statements. Canada is doing a good job of keeping criminals and suspected criminals out of the country. No. That's a no, chat. What do you guys say, chat? Yes or no? Canada is doing a good job of keeping criminals and suspected criminals out of the country.
Well, that's ridiculous, and I'll let the chat respond while I speak to it. But there's an article we talked about there's an article we talked about a few weeks ago where the Canadian government admitted that they don't know who's in the country, who leaves the country. And they're implementing a system by the end of this year, which will turn into multiple years at billions of dollars more cost, to finally be able to do that. So if they don't know who's in and out of this country, then no, they don't know who the criminals are. But if they don't know who the legal folks are, they definitely know who the illegal people who are actively trying to evade things are. This place is a sieve.
Yeah.
You're more likely, for example, remember that Chinese store owner, and he was robbed, right?
And he tried to defend himself. That guy
defended himself, yeah. And then he's the one who got arrested. He held the guy captive, waited for the police, and he got in trouble. It's more likely that you, being the victim of crime, will be the one who will be reprimanded rather than the guy. I mean, there's been so many cases, not just in Ontario, but other places where the guy's breaking into someone's house and the guy clobbers him. And then he charges the guy the victim, right? The one whose house was burglared, with assault and battery. All the guy was doing was, he has a right to protect his property and his home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have stupid laws in this country. There's a guy, watch this. So you have this crazy Armenian mental case kid, he's 18, goes on a streetcar in Toronto and drops his pants to his ankles, walks like a duck, and pulls out a little teeny knife, and he's scaring everybody, and his pecker's hanging out, and everybody just runs off the streetcar. All chicken shit. Now, I know what it might sound like, oh yeah, it's after the fact, but there was a guy there with a bike, and you just have to throw the bike at the kid. He'll fall over, right? Because the pants are at his ankles. He can't walk. So he's pretty much stationary. So here come the cops, all, cowboy, Mel Gibson style. They unload like 20 rounds in the kid. Mm-hmm. And then he taser him. He's dead, right? He's bleeding from head to toe.
Was he illegal? Alien?
No, he was illegal, but he was brought in as a refugee, right? Mm-hmm. But he had mental issues, right, from Armenia, and he was a Muslim. But the mother, the same type of story. Oh, he was a good boy. Yeah, sure.
Was this the guy Sami Yatim?
Yep.
Yeah. So there's another example that they failed, right?
Watch this, right? So the cop, being a
well, don't forget the guy was holding a knife. Not excusing the shooting, but the guy was holding a knife, which the cop used to justify the shooting. I know, ridiculous.
20 rounds, he's down. Right?
I agree. Yeah,
loaded his kneecap or whatever.
I 100% agree. Yeah, but go ahead.
Let me finish. And to make sure they electrocute his corpse, right, from behind. Meanwhile, and the cops are getting shit. And this kid could have been taken down easily. I'm telling you, I saw the video.
Sure.
There's one guy running around with his bicycle on the streetcar. You ram the bicycle between his head, he'll go down. Easy. I've been in situations with winos who attacked my father on cue, just to give him a body check with the hockey stick. Boom, he goes down like a log. And so in I think it was Alberta or Manitoba, there's a kid on the bus and some Chinese mental case who's been in the country for like 2 years at most, hacks a kid's head off live. And cops are there, stop the bus, and he's continuing to munch on his ear. Num, 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 num. And the cops don't unload. Now you tell me how crazy this country is. And then 2 years later, he's out back on the streets. He's okay. The parole board, he said he's fine as long as he takes his meds. Fuck off. Justice in this country? Give me a break. You're more likely statistically to be impacted by violent crime than the criminal himself. Right? Am I wrong? Chat, tell me I'm wrong. So
Yeah, the guy was Vince Lee. And actually, I'm sharing the video of the guy from the streetcar in Toronto that Fred was mentioning. The whole thing was captured on internal video on the streetcar, so that's playing along here too. But anyways, yeah.
All right, so Canada should be accepting more refugees. Yes or no?
no.
Obviously, right? So let's try to get through this article though. I'm worried that accepting too many immigrants will change Canada. Obviously, yes. Canada should be doing more to encourage skilled labor to immigrate to Canada. Illegal immigration is becoming a serious problem in Canada, right? In another section, they were asked to select one of the following. Too many immigrants are visible minorities. About right number of immigrants are visible minorities, not enough immigrants are visible minorities, etc. Right? So, there's like 3,000 people in the poll, right? And then, 64% said illegal immigration is becoming a serious problem. So, yeah, people, even regular people are aware of the fucking border crisis, even though the CBC and whatnot are always trying to downplay it and say it's not a border problem. Like, people see the problem, they see the issue, and these numbers are only going to go up in the future. I'm hearing a little echo again, but 24% said too many immigrants are visible minorities, right? So, that's still a good number, 24%. If that's representative, that's 1/4 of the country, right? And I'm not saying that's like a per se good thing, but it kind of is. It kind of is. I think it is reflective that there is a sort of thin veneer of tolerance, but underneath there is a lot of racism that still exists in Canada, said Clark Kazak. So us wanting to accept less refugees is us being racist, apparently, right? Where it's, how about we just can't handle that many people? We're at capacity. We have our own people to take care of. No, you're just a racist. She said the Canadian context is also influenced by language coming out of the U.S. from a president she sees as anti-refugee, anti-immigration, and anti-Islam. That discourse, she said, is seeping into both the political sphere and everyday life. Other experts say Canada is not immune to the trend. Canada is not unique, said Mireille Paquette, a political science professor of Concordia University and research chair on the politics of immigration. Canada might have been more protected from some of the trends we see in Europe or in the United States, for example, but recent events show that Canadians also react the same way to this kind of growing politicization of immigration. So, they just kind of want us to stop talking about it, essentially, right? But, and then another quote from, Hussein, Minister of Immigration, Refugee Citizenship. We are an aging society. We have a growing economy that needs a lot of new workers, so just to hear that guy tell you, Ahmed Hussein, that you're aging and you're dying and you need new people to replace you. You're just like, oh, fuck off, dude. Like, just right in your face, and then they just talk about Andrew Scheer's platform, who's like, we want to focus on, economic immigration mostly, and then blah blah blah, and then NDP wants to pretty much, like, I don't know, open the border or whatever.
Border? What border?
Create environmental refugees and slowing down the deportation process. Like, really? You want to slow down the to make it more costly? Cost more money? Are you fucking kidding me? That's why these people are never going to win. Fuck the NDP. that's pretty much it for that article. If you wanted to share what you wanted to show there, Fredrick.
Yeah, I wanted to show our pride in the Army and Navy.
Oh, sorry, 1 sec. I just saw a donation. I don't know if this came earlier or something, but just $20 from Joyce Reeves. Thank you for the donation. I really appreciate that. Song, Never Mind, by Indedge to White Can. CBC, some words. You are of that kin from that kind. You kill more bad than we ever could. Our children hearing this on Canada Day, charge them. Well, thank you for the comment, and thank you very much for the donation, Joyce Reeves. I really appreciate that, and also your continued viewership. You know, you comment on pretty much all of my videos that I make, and add to the discussion. So yeah, thank you again. But sorry, Fred, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so this is in celebration of the Canadian Armed Forces, Navy, Air Force, whatever. So we had this guy named Gurdeep Bander. And keep in mind while I play this video, I think it was in March, right? When the military had marched through, was it Toronto, with the rifles in a position that's not customary to a military march and display, and all of the Sikhs in line with loaded weapons. So I'll play.
Oh
this.
yeah, I remember that.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
First, pick up your left leg up like this and bring it back. Up and back. Up, back. Up,
Yeah, I saw this.
First of all, fuck guys, go to the gym, man. Look at this guy. Dude, you got to go to the gym a little bit. Like I've heard before that the American Armed Forces is getting a little heavy in the under the belt. So these people really need to, I don't know, go on a diet. But they just look like so foolish. What's this about? So does anybody understand what the reference to the burning helicopter at the back?
No. I don't know what that is.
Look at this pudgy little lesbian. Folks in the chat, I know you're participating. Please tell me.
Are these military reservists or something like?
This is why we can't be
Wow.
replaced. This is why we cannot. Just the main reason. Our armed forces, military, etc., will just be turned into jokes.
Francis,
Trannies.
Can you post a link in the chat? I think some people are asking for it.
Yeah, hold on. I'll grab that right now.
Yeah, I don't like
you, and you post it over there. Okay. All right, so I have no issue with this guy who probably wants that, or this guy. I have a complete issue with this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Do you have any self-respect? What does this have to do with the military and Canadian military in that respect? Well, let's continue. A bunch of buffoons. So, again, this came out on July 1st or 2nd. Canada's celebrating its birthday. What is this video for? It doesn't have any message. All it's saying is, look at us, Canadian military are a bunch of clowns, and they're not, wear the Canadian flags for July 1st. Oh, yeah.
Well, wait. The head of our military is
Oh,
fucking
right.
isn't he, right?
Right. Yeah, he is.
I told you. I go back to my earlier comment. 5th generation Canadians only allowed in politics. If you want to argue with me, fine. 4th generation, nothing less. Created by Gundir Deepbarder in collaboration with Canadian Armed Forces to celebrate diversity and inclusion in the Canadian Forces.
Interesting to see how Mr. Gurdeep is connected to Harjit Sajjan, the Minister of Defense, and see if there is any connection there.
Yeah, we should check it out. Gurdeep.ca.
They're related.
Now, watch the comments.
I'm kidding. That just
Look at the
distantly,
comments.
yeah.
Holy shit! I couldn't get the comments. Oh, here are the comments. I think they're the comments.
So what were they? The armed forces of Canada?
Yeah, Armed and Navy Forces.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't get it. Like that was Canada Day.
Yeah.
We want to show our love for Canada Day, I guess. So we're gonna like butcher. Well, whatever. I don't know. I don't care. To a huge extent.
Trying to pull the comments section on this. So there's a couple of Canadians who were saying, what does this have to do with Canada and stuff? And there were a lot of people like, oh, proud to be Punjabi Canadian. And what's your problem? It's good to have Punjabis. But for some reason, I think they wiped out the comments.
Punjabi just sounds like an insult, you know, like it's one of those words like Jew, you know, if you just say like, get out of here, Punjabi. They're like, oh, what are you, racist? Like, no, like that's what they call themselves. like, I don't know.
Well, yeah.
It sounds bigoted.
Brutal though. Like oh jeez, I can't pull it out. I don't know if they hit it because they were.
That was our entire army, like Slavey. McSlaverson said in the chat. He's like, was that our entire army? Like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy you didn't see was the guy holding the camera. So, but yeah, that's basically everybody. And our equipment up in flames in the back.
Right. Yeah, the army we can
I
fund.
understand what that was about. Basically, Gurdeep collaborated to create this Punjabi Bhangra dance video to celebrate diversity, inclusion of Canadian forces, soldiers from different backgrounds, one force with one love for Canada and Canadians. Again, it's not a love for Canada because what are you doing dancing to? Why not do everything? Like, why not do a collage? Start off with, the little jumpy uppy down dance, then move on to something Asian.
It's just like every one of these stories I see. It's like that some refugees, somebody comes to Canada, and then they're like, "Well, I'm going to give back by helping all these other refugees and stuff that come into Canada." And you're like, "Well, no, give back to Canadians and stuff, and to those people." But it's like, no, it's like I'm going to give back by, I don't know, singing my song on your day of celebration or whatever, right? But whatever, like I said, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not gonna make that big of a stink and be like, you asshole Punjabi, you know. But I don't know how much money went into it. Doesn't look like it was like a huge budget, but it is worrying, you know, I guess, and as a trend, right? You know, but this is just more examples of just upcoming diversity, right? And I can't remember. I think I had saved an article. It was on the Toronto Raptors, right? And every article you do end up reading about that, it always just ends up linking it to diversity some fucking how or some way every single time. An example of how diversity this, diversity that, and you're like, okay, but you know, it's. I'm not going to get too mad about it per se, but yeah.
be mad because this is it reflects in the greater whole, right?
Yeah, but I can't be mad at the guy. What I'm saying, like I can't.
I'm not mad at him. Mad at ourselves, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
For this shit. But look at this. Here's some of the comments that I'm sharing. Like, coolest thing ever. This video would be the perfect 4th of July gift for Trump. Like, Irene Bertling. You know, what background is that? Good, wholesome fun, plenty of exercise. Why was the helicopter on fire? Here's one. Hey, oh my God, she's Slavic. Mirjana Skoric. I don't really see diversity. I just see people in uniform acting weird. Good for her, Slavs. When I was in armed forces, you had to watch how you conducted yourself in uniform. Couldn't even put hands in your pockets. But it's okay to dance. Give her a little thumbs up here. Mariana. And then the other people, look at this. I was expecting a better. So like you just look at the comments, it's just ridiculous. And I gave my feedback. It's 112 to 17 with 12,000 views. So, and let me just add my little comment. Where was the flag for Canada Day? Okay. So,
right. So yeah, you know.
Don't go over there and downvote. I'm not telling you to do anything. Wink. Right. So anyway.
Well, right. If you saw the stream I was in, or I did the other day, there was like those two kids singing the anthem, and I don't know, they're clearly like refugees or something, and it was being promoted by the CBC, and they even sang the the new version of the national anthem, right, where it's like all of our us command instead of our sons command or something, right? So and I seen an article the other day talking about how it's been changed in the 70s and 80s, so it's just more things like it changes all the time, blah blah blah, whereas it's like, yeah, to some extent that's kind of true, but just because it's talking about sons command, right, and it's not mentioning women, obviously, yeah, they got to change that specific one because of the whole gender diversity quota, which seeps into literally everything in society, right? Like a few of the articles I have up talk about that specifically, right? I got the one where, how Trudeau at the G20 summit or last year, he talked about how men construction workers increase the risk for like female or indigenous women in working areas or whatever. So now by the CBC, there's like, a new study that said, new study shows that study gendered impacts of resource development. So Native Women's Association applauds call for justice, right? So this thing pretty much just tries to, confer what Trudeau said like about a year ago. So before a resource development project goes ahead, it should be assessed for risk it poses to Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. So trannies. The inquiry's final report recognizes the document phenomenon that resource extraction is linked to spikes in violence against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. It also says the influx of mostly single men with disposable income has a spin-off, a burgeoning sex industry that makes women and girls vulnerable to abuse and higher rates of sexually transmitted infection. So, there probably is a bunch of dudes buying, a bunch of prostitutes and whores and shit. And, nobody's necessarily forcing you to sell yourself. Well, that happens sometimes, right? There's some pimp or whatever that's like, hey, you fucking sell your body for me, or I'm gonna, I don't know, beat the shit out of you or something. But a lot of the times women choose to fucking do that shit. But you can always make excuses and be like, well, they were sexually abused when they were younger, and yada yada yada, and that's why they do it. Well, that's true. I'm sure each and every one of them was abused to some extent. That's why you shouldn't buy hookers or pay for hookers and shit, because know that the girl that you're sleeping with was probably raped as a child or something. Same with strippers and stuff. A lot of them were probably in porn stars. A lot of them were probably abused as children and shit. Because, like, imagine doing that stuff and having parents, right? Like, oh, and not giving a shit. But it also says the influx, blah blah blah, security. But you'll see the real reason behind this, right? I'll get to the article. Security and safety are emphasized in the report. We need to have a plan to look after, but that means women and girls must equally benefit from resource development at all stages of the project, she said. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said, that thing at the 20 whatever impact summit, etc. But sorry, some members of the industry have denied any problem exists, resulting in a continuing erasure of issues that may mean the difference literally between life and death, the report states. So it's really fucked up too. It's like, these they're looking for any way to kill our industry, any possible way to do it, while trying to be like, well, no, we're not. We're just trying to make sure everybody's safe. We're not trying to kill the pipeline industry. We're just trying to save the whales, or blah blah blah. It's like, no, you're trying to kill it by saying, oh well, or I guess you're trying to give some people a bigger piece of the pie when they do come into a certain area, right? But it also calls the suggestion in the op-ed that women are an order of magnitude safer at our mines than at home, a gross mischaracterization of the ways extractive industries can affect the safety of Indigenous women and girls, right? So that is kind of insulting. The suggestion, but I don't know. I haven't read the op-ed, so maybe there wasn't a suggestion that they're much safer around there than in their own homes. Well, maybe statistically that might be true though as well, to be honest. It's not other people that are making women and girls going missing, like Aboriginal girls. It's Aboriginal people doing it to themselves. But the report also details testimony and research on the hardships women working on resource development projects can face, including sexual harassment, racism, physical isolation, and being located far from police services. So, it's not a reason why men and women should just not work together in certain industries. Now, I'm not excusing the men's behavior, like if they are actually assaulting women, because I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I've worked in the roofing industry and all that shit, and different industries, and in the kitchen industry, right? And there is a lot of sexual assault, I guess you could call it, but it seems like they like it. I don't know, but maybe some of them really don't. But working in that industry, you see a lot of that shit, and maybe wanted or unwanted. But when women face economic inequality and are financially dependent on their spouse, they are made vulnerable, the report says. So look at it. Like, more when women face economic inequality and are financially dependent on their spouse. So it's like, get out there, divorce your husband, and be independent. They are made vulnerable. Oh, so you're vulnerable with your husband. No, you're not. That's probably the safest place for women. The report says Indigenous women face significant barriers to participating in extractive economy. The report also documents evidence on the strain rotational work can put on family relationships, contributing to domestic violence. So that,
look at what you outlined there. Keep going. That first bullet point.
Consider this.
there.
Go ahead.
No. Consider the safety and security of all Indigenous women, girls, and
2SLGBTQQIA, two spirit, lesbian, gay.
couldn't lump them together, assholes.
Just mentally ill.
They suck.
Right. But so they're like mitigate risk, identifying those assessment prior to approving a project. So however you mitigate those risks involved, I don't know what you would do. Hey guys, don't rape anybody. Don't do this. I don't know. Ask. Don't. It's probably just hire a bunch of HR people that don't really have a use for their degree other than telling you that you're privileged and that you shouldn't harass people or something like that. I don't know. But include provisions in impact benefit agreements that ensure women and girls benefit equitably from a project. So see, this is the real reason behind it. Like, so whatever the fuck that means, how do they benefit equitably from a project? How are they not benefiting equitably before? You know, like don't the workers come into town and give everybody money? What about the guys that get beat up by the workers who come into town and drink at the bar and fight? That probably happens more often. Like, I'll tell you that, man. Like that happens fucking probably more often than the other shit. But recognize increased demands on social infrastructure, including policing, social services, and health services. So, you know, just more money, blah, 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 right? Yeah. The association launched a tool last week to improve diversity within companies and the communities they operate in. That includes women in mining program, mentorship, corporate policies on gender, inclusive and anti-harassment research into barriers for women in industry. So, you know, that's the whole thing. They don't care about women being, you know, really assaulted. It's like, okay, how do we fix these numbers again? These diversity numbers, they're not up to par like how we want them to be, etc. But that's pretty much it for that story there. Check out the chat here. Because I don't know if Fred or whatnot, you guys are still around.
Yeah, I'm listening. Interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Canada, our home. Let me check out the chat. Oh, all right. Well, let's see what else I got here then. Well, I'm just sharing it.
I have a quick story while you're getting that ready. You don't mind? Or you got it up? Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, you know, just for shits and giggles, it's a little bit of an older story. So, you know, I see this a lot in my area. Back in April, it's an older story. Not too long ago. Chinese tycoon's son complains about BC taxes on purchase of $5 million supercar. And these guys are like between the ages of 18 and 21, right? A Chinese tycoon's son took to Instagram to complain about British Columbia taxes, upset that he was paying more than $900,000 in fees on the purchase of a $5 million supercar. Ding Dong Chen, the son of a China-based multimillionaire, Chen Mei-lin, posted the invoice for his custom Bugatti supercar to his Instagram on Thursday, along with the caption, which translates to, this tax, the heart is really tired. I don't know what that means. The bill from Vancouver's Weish Sack Performance Dealership shows a breakdown of the fees and the taxes on the car, but what seemed to upset Chen was that the federal and provincial sales taxes, with the GST costing him $210,000. alongside a whopping $697,000 in PST. Oh, boo fucking who. The tax, which equals almost a quarter of the car's total costs, it's a result of BC's longstanding luxury car tax, which recently increased by the provincial NDP in February 2018. Vehicles costing between $125,000 to $149,000 are hit with a 15% rate, while vehicles costing more than $150,000 come to a 20% tax. The purpose of a luxury tax is to shift the burden of taxation away from those who can't afford taxes, who have to make a choice between taxes and feeding their family. I have an issue with this, but it's kind of like, where do I sit on this, right? Because I don't like taxation, right? You and I agree that taxation for the most part is theft, but in this case, I kind of agree with it, because the amount of monies these people come in with and like supplant local people that can't buy homes, they purchase up all the properties. And I'm going to show later in the
Well, yeah, when it comes to situations like, people, you need to use your common sense. You know what I mean? It's like, there's some people that argue with libertarians that, they're retarded to the point where it's like they want to open up some things while leaving a porous border or whatever, right? And yeah, I'm against taxation in all forms, but if I'm getting taxed and and like these people are coming into my country and fucking it over and all this shit, then yeah, tax those people more so they leave. Like use the fucking system at the point in time that you can to get these people out. Like, yeah, like the people that are buying a home that are not actual citizens, make them pay triple, quadruple. Like, I don't know, make them pay a lot, make them pay tons more. I don't give a fuck.
The thing is that these people, they're money laundering. They're bringing all, because who do you know that was some sort of animal farmer, right? Becomes a billionaire. So it says here, as like, I'll just go through here. While the taxes seem steep, it's presumably no issue for Ding Dong Chen, whose father paid for the car, according to the bill. The 49-year-old businessman is a former duck farmer. Now, farmers in China are a little bit different than the farmers here. I understand they get a lot of subsidies, but if you're a farmer in China, you're the bottom of the barrel on the economic social scale, right? You might as well be a factory worker. You would have a little bit more social status. Farmer is the bottom of the barrel. And he's a former duck farmer who now sits as chairman of Nanjing Dingyi Investment Group, a property investment conglomerate which he founded. So let me understand this for a second. You're a duck farmer. You're on the bottom of the rung in the social status, and all of a sudden you are now a investor. I can tell you, I for the most part, right? I can't say all, but generally speaking, based on averages, when I was there for about 6 months, that the way they do business and cheat and bamboozle people, this is how the guy's made his billions. So the fact that he's trying to get a sob story for being taxed to death by for a kid buying a Bugatti, and you can see it's a custom Bugatti. They're making it for him, right?
The son of a family that owns one of BC's most expensive.
Blah blah blah.
Yeah, who gives a fuck, man? What are you complaining about? Paying more for your car, for your rich kid's car? What?
Look at this kid's house. And this shit isn't new. The kid that was kidnapped was not too far.
Go back to China. Go back to China. That's all I have to say. Every single time I hear shit, people complain, that's the only thought that goes through my head is like, go back to your country. Go back to your country. Go back to your country. Especially if they're like a new immigrant, like they just got here or something. If they've been here for a generation or a couple or whatever, like, but like people like that, like, come on, man, go away.
Chris, any comments? Chris, are you?
I was just on mute. No, I'm kind of aligned with what AJ just said there. When I hear some of these comments, I mean, I just don't see the value this guy's bringing to the country whatsoever. So yeah,
tax revenue.
Are they paying taxes?
No, but he is now.
Well, did he actually pay the bill? He got a bill. Doesn't mean he paid it.
Yeah, people have ways of not paying their bills, their taxes, pretty well. You know, it seems like what were the Panama Papers? That revealed a lot of people.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen, and there's been other articles we've shown to talk about how terrible CRA is at collecting taxes from rich people. So, and I'm sure the provincial governments aren't any better. So yeah. And even if he did, he could go and take them to tax courts and hire KPMG and get at least a percentage of that back, if not the whole thing. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys hear about that story a little while ago about that woman that was fighting with these Somali and Muslim women at Canadian Wonderland, and apparently, she pulled off their hijab, and now it's being like investigated as a hate crime or something? I can show the video, and this is what the CBC, or not the CBC, what the fuck are they called here? The I don't know, News Toronto, 680 News Toronto, whatever the fuck you pronounce it. So I'll share it right now. This is how they spin it, right? They don't give you the whole story. They give you a portion of the story, but later on, the girl released her version of events on Facebook, and she's like, the news people never even approached me for my comments or anything like that. So, that's just typical of the news. Why would they bother going to ask her side of the story? They're just going to ask their side of the story, but they're going to listen to these Somali and, Muslims, etc. All right, let's play this here.
Got to turn it up a bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah, I'm turning it up here right now.
There we go. Yep.
A disturbing incident caught on camera at Wonderland is being called racially motivated. An 18-year-old woman in a hijab says she was attacked here at the park on Thursday after getting into a verbal confrontation with another group. She says a man spit in her face and told her to go back to her country. Part of the confrontation was captured on cell phone video. The 18-year-old says she was spit on after she was spit on. 3 other women of the same family attacked her. She says her hijab was torn off and she was hit multiple times in the head. The 18-year-old was apparently on her grad trip and says police didn't handle the situation well at all, even claiming an officer rolled his eyes when she mentioned the word Islamophobia. Now, in a statement, York Regional Police say hate crime investigators have been engaged in the investigation of the alleged assault at Wonderland since the very beginning, alongside 4 district detectives. They add, "We take every allegation of hate seriously and can assure our community it is being investigated thoroughly." The National Council of Canadian Muslims also speaking out, calling the incident extremely troubling, saying, "We are now in contact with the complainant. Rest assured, we're not going to let anyone get away with racism or Islamophobia." And a spokesperson for Canada's Wonderland also saying police and Wonderland security responded quickly and appropriately to the incident, and they say that both parties were ejected from the park immediately. We'll have much more on this developing story tonight on City News at 11.
So, that's their side of the story, essentially, right? But I think this is the her statement right here, the Brandy Lynn, her actual statement. And, she was like, "I was reluctant to post about this incident, but it comes to my attention that my version needs to be put out there. On Thursday, my family went to Wonderland and our day turned into a nightmare after we had lunch outside the park. We were at the park with 5 children, age 9, 5, 5, 4, and 1. Walking back into the park around 4 p.m., I was alone and was I was alone with my 2 children. The rest of my family were already through the gates. A Somalian woman shoved my 4-year-old and pushed in front of us. I called the woman an asshole, and a group of Somalian women then started screaming and verbally attacking me and my children in the gates. I managed to get through and into the park only to look behind and have roughly 15 women corner me and my kids screaming, "Fuck you and fuck your kids." At this point, my family, who was already through the gates, witnessed me struggling to get away from them and came to my aid. My boyfriend and others repeatedly told them to back away from me and my kids, and they refused. The 18-year-old female who looked 30 wouldn't stop and then spit in my boyfriend's face. Horrified, he spit back in hers. She threw a drink on him and proceeded to punch him in the face. His mom jumped in to protect him, and then an altercation broke out between the 2 groups that was quickly separated by security. We were detained for nearly 3 hours by the York Region Police, investigated, as well as Wonderland Security. This was not racially motivated, and it was not just one girl. We are not racist. I don't care what color, nationality, or religion you are. If you're going to shove my child and be ignorant, I'm going to call you an asshole. This story has been falsely broadcasted on a few news sites and stations. They do not have all the facts, nor have they made any attempts to contact us to find out why this happened. An 18-year-old woman, 3 times the size of me, in front of her friends, attempted to harass, bully, and intimidate a white mother alone with 2 kids and is now calling us racist. Last I checked, asshole wasn't a racial slur. If anyone has questions, feel free to message me. Picture of myself and my youngest child, right? So, yeah, sure, this is her side of the story, right? Maybe she's lying. She looks like a degenerate with her tattoos.
Yeah.
So
thank you. But nevertheless, I'm on her side, but it's good we're calling that out because and I've been to Canada's Wonderland before. There's quite a dichotomy of people going there. But yeah, she was very honest, and if it was her, it was really well written. And it's funny, no one's come out with that yet. No one has in the media, in the Canadian media, come out with that. We're the only ones speaking about it now.
Now that video, I mean, look, the story's been told, because in that video, it wasn't just the opinion of the people, but I watched another version of that where they got an interview, but it was with the Canadian Muslim Congress, talking about how they're all against hate. I'm like, okay, reporters, let's do both sides here. Like this Facebook post, I don't know how long this Facebook post was posted after the incident, if it was the same day or a few days later.
It says 13 hours ago, right there, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, so there you go. So it's right there. So they could have certainly followed up with it. Obviously, they said we'll have much more information about this. So if they were really kind of doing something, they could have. But anyways, they had a certain narrative to tell, and they told it.
Well, right. Like they didn't even mention anything. Like we know that for a fact, at least, that it doesn't seem like they went to get their opinions. Like she could be lying, misrepresenting it as well. But
hey, we've had that happen before, where we had that kid. There's been a few times where there've been things where people said, "Oh yeah, my there's the one who had my what do you call it, the hijab pulled off, or my hijab was cut," and it turns out those things weren't things that happened. So,
but I mean, like the white woman could be lying, but what I'm saying,
sure, absolutely true.
We don't know, because what we do know is at least that the media is not even going to them and asking their opinion. All they're concerned about is trotting out these Muslims as victims and saying, "Hey, look, hate crime increasing in Canada against Islamophobia increasing." They want to push any example that they can in front of us about that, right?
You know what? Could have ended right there. The park officials did the right thing. They took both groups and said, guys, please leave the premises. We don't know what's going on. I hear your story. Unfortunately, we're going to have to ask you to vacate the premises.
Yep. And they called the cops and done. Simple as that. Yep.
What happened after that is all bullshit. And it's all spin. And it's spin because we have assholes like Ahmed Hussein and Ikra Khalid and all of these assholes who are not Canadian by any stretch of the means are running the show. And we have asshole white people who hate themselves. They look in the mirror every day and they go, I hate myself. But instead of doing something about it, they choose to berate and harass other white people. Right? So, and I'm, because of this, truth or not, I'm going to believe the white girl. Sorry. Because from the very start, the media did not want to release her statement whatsoever. They didn't want to talk to her. And then the Muslim Congress jumped all over this. And you could say, see, Islamophobia. Really? The girl stood her ground, man. She, from the looks of it, she can take care of herself. And granted, I believe her when she says those ninjas look a little heavy. Have you seen any of them lately? They don't look like they can run maybe even a meter. They'll be out of breath.
Well, I don't know. I think that girl she was facing was just like big as in just tall.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know if she was obese.
I see most of them. Go to Scarborough Town Center, you'll see most of them. They're all like the girth around them. The dresses on a woman can follow the contours of her body. The outline, right? The what do we call it? The line. And you look most of them, the girth is wider than a man's hips most of the time, or his shoulders. So, the profile gives it away. So,
and I already don't believe the Muslims, even if I'm more inclined to believe the white woman as well, but I'm not going to believe that they've lied too many times. And whenever I hear hijab pulling, I'm just like, okay, that's just a lie right away. And, it's like, fuck off, man. And I don't care either. That's another thing. I actually don't give a shit. If somebody said some mean words to you, I don't care. Go back to your country. Oh, well, man. Canada's a great place. You're going to have to contend with some few mean words. You're not always going to have the media come to protect you. Well, you do now, and I'm not saying I condone it and I advocate it and say, everybody go be racist and shit. But I mean, there's such small altercations all the time you see that turn into national news. You're like, really? This is news? Are you kidding me? It's like diversity is not worth it if we got to contend with this fucking shit every couple of months. This woman's racist. They're probably trying to ruin her life and destroy her career and shit. And people are leftists and SJWs are probably calling her work to try to get her fired or something, right? But it's just it's too risky. Diversity is risky because then it's just adds a whole new element of offending people. And you didn't know this is their holy day and you just told him this, or you just shake the woman's hand. Well, oh my God. It's fuck off. Jesus Christ. But let's see here. Go ahead.
Christian movies all the time, right?
Yeah, right.
They call Jesus gay and shit like this. I didn't see Chris bouncing off the walls and becoming a maniac and going on the streets and just, so he was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
I think if Christians did, then they'd probably get a little bit more respect in this crazy society. It's kind of what it takes. That fear of retribution is one of the reasons. One is that I think Jeff mentioned Christians don't care. I could care less too. I mean, I don't, I'm not afraid of some criticism by any stretch. But I mean that kind of attitude, that fear of retribution from Islamists is one of the reasons why you don't hear that criticism. You don't see parodies of Muhammad, because even kind of imaging, even that kind of imaging is something that could really. I mean, you saw what happened with the Charlie Hebdo in France when they drew a picture of Muhammad and put it on their magazine, and the columnist got shot or was killed, and their whole place was shot up.
Imagine what kind of mental acuity you have when you get triggered by a comic.
Yeah, I know. In a Western free, quote unquote, free society, whose freedoms have created the safe haven that you've run to, because your old place was bombed into the ground because of the policies that you're trying to enforce here, but with a kind of mentality that lets you go after a comic artist. Ridiculous.
Right. Well, I got a couple more articles I want to bring up, and we can just talk about whatever after that. It's mainly also because I had them in the title. But everybody, hit the like button, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you got questions specifically, put my name or anybody else's name in the chat so I can see it highlighted. But when I do share my screen, I can't see the chat, so just be aware of that.
Yeah, Chris and I keep an eye on it.
But thank you, Soda Pop Shotgun. I'm glad you like the channel. I appreciate it, man. Steve and Jeff, thank you for coming along. Hey, Slavey, Boss Man, BM Boss Man. Yeah, I just noticed that now. Fucking, that's ridiculous. Hey, Tim, Diamond, but let's bring up this one article. You guys heard of Dominic LeBlanc? That guy who works for Trudeau. And, he's the guy who, I think it was about almost a year ago, where he had an ethics violation because he was giving a contract to one of his wife's cousins or something, some fishery contract. And they were going to give it to like their company, his wife's, I don't know, cousin or stepbrother, or so. He's definitely related. But this guy has like a huge history of doing this shit. And an article just came out recently from CBC talking about how he's appointed like 5 different people that are like in relation with this guy. So Dominic LeBlanc's family, friends, neighbor win 5 of 6 recent judicial appointments. So all judicial appointments are made on the basis of merit, says official of federal justice minister. So 5 of the last 6 federal appointees announced in New Brunswick include LeBlanc's neighbor, LeBlanc's family relation, and 3 lawyers who helped retire debts from his unsuccessful 2008 leadership bid. LeBlanc is currently Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, Northern Affairs, and Internal Trade. So, in the latest judicial appointees in New Brunswick announced last month, Federal Justice Minister David Lametti named Moncton lawyer Robert M. Dysart and St. John lawyer Arthur T. Doyle to the trial division of the Court of Queen's Bench. According to financial records on file with Elections Canada, both men have been regular donors to the Liberal Party, including LeBlanc's Beausejour riding association, even though in Doyle's case he lives 100 kilometers away. The 2 were also among a group of 50 donors who gave money in 2009 to help LeBlanc retire about $31,000 in debts from his unsuccessful 2008 Liberal bid. Also helping with the leadership debt was lawyer Charles LeBlanc and businessman Jacques Pinette, both from Moncton. Pinette is married to Justice Tracy Dewar. She was named Chief Justice of New Brunswick Court of Queen's Bench trial by Justin Trudeau in early June. All these people, it's all friends and family and acquaintances, and brothers and sisters. They're all appointed based on merit. DeWare herself was a Conservative Party donor and originally appointed to the bench in 2012 by the Conservative government of Stephen Harper, but she and Panette are also neighbors of LeBlanc. They're just neighbors. Oh, there's no, yeah, this is all independent, guys. All these departments, don't worry, they're independent from each other. In 2013, they bought a seaside property in Grande, whatever, from LeBlanc next to his own summer house. Property records show they paid $430,000. So, in a fifth appointment last year, Moncton family lawyer Marie-Claude Belanger Richard was picked to fill a judicial vacancy in St. John. She is married to LeBlanc's brother-in-law. How do you just blatantly, openly do this and like just not care? Just this isn't gonna be a problem. Yeah, no, like everybody you appoint has some relation to you. They're either your neighbor, they're your married to your brother-in-law or something. Like, Jesus Christ. Lametti's office declined an interview request, but his press secretary, Rachel Rappaport, issued a statement denying favoritism and political patronage in any of the New Brunswick appointments. Like, all judicial appointments are made on the basis of merit. As with all Canadian citizens, judicial candidates are free to engage personally in political activities. The appointments process neither disqualifies nor privileges an applicant on the basis of political associations. Okay, it's a little bit more than political associations. More like, this is my neighbor, this is my brother. This is like pure nepotism. A 2010 study that looked at 856 judicial appointments in Canada over a 15-year period found major political connections were involved in New Brunswick appointments nearly 77% of the time. So that's like, so 80% pretty much of the appointments for judicial appointments are obviously, obviously this is the way the system works. Most people know that already, but just more blatant proof of it, I guess. Double the national average and more than 5 times the rate politically connected people won federal judgeships in provinces such as British Columbia and Ontario. So the problem is whether or not that connected person is different from the other ones that they didn't pick in terms of their decision-making, said Hossiger. There is not a lot of transparency in the system. We don't actually know a lot in terms of how the minister is finally choosing. So that's funny, right? Like, and you'll see, right? Because they don't allow you to see it. The commissioner will also not reveal if any of the unsuccessful candidates in New Brunswick scored higher than the winning candidates on assessments of their abilities and qualifications to be a judge. So we're not allowed to see whether or not other judges scored higher than the ones picked. Whereas if it's truly based on merit, shouldn't we be allowed to see the numbers of the judges and their qualifications and then just have the numbers speak for themselves instead of, so clearly it's not on merit. You're just saying that. Assessment results are confidential and solely for the minister's use. Philippe Lacasse, executive director of judicial appointments for the commissioner, said in an email, in fact, candidates themselves are not informed of the results of their assessment, right? So, and then they just mentioned, in 2006, Jody Wilson-Raybould said that she promised to make improvements. Since 2017, there have been 10 federal judicial appointments or elevations in New Brunswick. In addition to the 5 more recent connected to LeBlanc, at least 3 other appointments were past political donors to the Liberal Party. So, yeah, clearly, this is why you see a lot of these judges, going and failing, whenever like, a province challenges the carbon tax or something. They never make it back past like, the provincial courts or whatnot. All of our judges, they're obviously not there because they're good at their job. They're there because they're gonna toe the party line to some extent, or they're gonna read the law in more of a liberal fashion as opposed to a conservative, I guess, type fashion, or they're gonna give, when it comes to companies that are good or give a lot of money to the left, to liberals, then these judges are in place to then give them a deferred prosecution agreement or some fucking nonsense like that, right? But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I went through the story. So yeah, the clear corruption in Canada. Dominic LeBlanc. I don't know if you guys know anything about him or anything to do with him. Recent politics.
So what party is he? Did he mention the party? Was he appointed by liberals? Was he appointed?
He's a liberal.
So what are they going to do about it? I mean, because I know in Ontario, we recently had a number of people connected to, family, friends of the Ford family, Doug Ford folks, and people associated with them, family members, wives, cousins, whatever, who all lost jobs or were all called out by the media, and so they took action and removed them. So and removed the people who put them in. So what's Trudeau going to do about this? Any word, any feedback? Well, then it's nothing. It's nothing unless it gets exploited in a campaign and people change their votes because of it. It's
not. It's nothing, sure, but I mean,
it's not nothing, but what's the result going to be, right? So
the results is just going to be, nobody's going to make a big enough stink about it for them to change anything, right? But I think that if people it's being reported on, but a lot of people they don't really read the news too much. Most people are not very informed on what's going on. But I'm telling you, man, if you just tell people like the stuff that is going on in Canada, and like you're fairly informed, more or less. No, I'm kidding. But you're informed. So then just talking about this stuff, talking about the amount of immigration that's coming in, like the 330,000 people that they brought in just this year alone, and how many illegal aliens are coming in, and how much money they're giving to SNC Lavalin, or all these appointments that Dominic LeBlanc type is making, like just blatant corruption, essentially. You name all these things off in front of somebody who doesn't really pay too much attention to politics. It's very easy to shift them, and for them to be like, oh wow, really? Like that's going on, like that, all that shit's happening right now, like all these people, because some people do, I guess, still kind of believe the system is somewhat independent, and I think maybe at the back of the head, most people do realize, it's all kind of sham, but I don't know. I think a lot of people still buy into that idea that these bodies are independent of each other. They're not supposed to be, etc. Right? But like this is just so blatant, right? What I'm saying, like with this guy, it's like you would remember Doug Ford. They were making a big deal about him just like a week ago.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Two things. He appointed a couple of people, and he didn't even know about it, apparently, or that's what he said, right? And then once he found out, then he was like, oh, get rid of them, right? But you see, the media was able to get him to fucking get rid of those people, and he immediately cowered or caved, right? But that just goes to show you the power, I guess, of the media, is that they in the left is that they know what they can get away with openly, whereas the right can do not even as bad as what this guy 0.5. It's like he's laughing in our faces, the people on the right. He's like, I can do it, but you can't. It's like,
exactly.
It's funny, man. It's hilarious.
Yep.
You're like, Jesus.
Well, going back to that,
on these people, fuck, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, going back to that first article you talked about with the percentage of people who thought immigration would change things, at least it gives. I mean, yeah, it's not necessarily high enough to Fred's point, but at least it lets me know that it's still people out there who are thinking. At least, I mean, people. Yes, whatever the media is saying is one thing, but at least there's some people who are trying to think about it, who maybe they don't really get too much into it, but at least something in their minds is making them think about it, and hopefully they start thinking about, okay, which side is trying to shut down for completely reasonable discussions about how much, how many, what's the value, what are we targeting, that kind of thing. And then votes for the parties that don't shut down those conversations, provided those parties aren't whipped and scared. But anyways, that's another conversation.
Right. You know, hey, Fredrick, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm listening to you guys. I pretty much in agreement with both of you guys. I don't deviate in my thoughts on this topic.
Deviate now. We want you to deviate. I'm kidding, but
ask Cherry to deviate because he seems
yeah. I don't know if you guys heard about this topic. I'm sure I don't know, you guys from Toronto. So TTC ticketing data raises concern that Black transit users are being fined at a disproportionately high rate. So, you know, the bread is in the pudding or whatever. You know, like you read the article and it tells you pretty much most of what you need to know, and you're like, yeah, that's why reading the headline is always going to leave you with a different impression a lot of the times of what the data within the article actually says, because most of the time it's somebody different who writes the headline for an article anyways, and it's somebody different who writes the actual article. But you know, within these numbers you see that they haven't really been collecting a lot of racial data for a long time, so it's incomplete, and you know, it kind of shifts up and down dramatically through from year to year. Like at one point Asians recorded like only 2% or something of the thefts, and another year it was like 25%. So it was like, you know, they were wildly inconsistent. But they're only going to focus on this, the Red Star media, because that's their incentive. You know, they're like they're trying to they did a freedom of information access to try to get information about this, to be like, oh, so we want to know so we can find out if this company is, you know, treating these people badly and we can expose it and blah, 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 right? But more than a decade's worth of data detailing tickets the TTC has issued to riders is raising concerns that Black transit users are fined for alleged offenses such as fare evasion in disproportionately high numbers. The data, which the Star obtained through the Freedom of Information request, you know, the hammer and sickle Star, shows that of the roughly 47,000 tickets given out between 2008 and 18 that recorded the race of the transit user, that recorded the user, 18.5% listed the subject as Black. So Black people make up roughly 8.9% of Toronto's population. So it's funny how they just automatically assume, because it's not like a complete equal, well, if they're 8.9%, that means they should only make up 8.9% of the tickets. Like, what are you, retarded? Are you stupid? That's not how that's how these things work. Like, they could make up 3%. You know? If you know what I mean, like that's not how these things work. But that's how these people's minds work. They're like, well, Asians make up 5%, so they should only do 5% of the tickets, you know, or whatever. You're like, no. According to 2016 census, the census also shows Black residents accounted for about 10.7% of the people who commute by public transit in Toronto. So the TTC is adamant that its employees don't discriminate against Black riders or any groups. Absolutely not, said agency spokesperson Stuart Green in an email. Toronto is one. Go ahead,
Their
Chris.
employees discriminate anyone. They're most of the time they're asleep in their booth.
Right, it's like, but this guy's like, Toronto is one of the most diverse cities in the world, and the TTC, yeah, the Toronto Raptors are from there. The TTC.
So just one thing to go back to Fred's point. So Fred, we're talking about transit enforcement officers. So these aren't the guys in the booths who are sitting there. In fact, those guys are going the way of the dodo bird because of the new cards we have. These are the actual basically TTC cops who are riding the trains, walking the platforms, and because the transit system has moved to an honor system essentially with the Presto cards. Now they have more enforcement officers that are out there to kind of check and see if people have paid their tickets and gotten transfers and a lot of other stuff. So,
fine, I'll make a rebuttal. They're at the donut shop, but
true. They're actually on disability. But okay, go on.
I've seen them on the GO train, and I'm surprised how many people don't pay on the GO train.
Yeah,
pulling them off.
Well, this is the whole. That's what this is about, and like people. You'll see that there's a couple examples in here, and they're like,
they were Black, by the way. So,
right, but it's like, okay, so Toronto is one of the most diverse cities in the world, and the TTC is proud to deliver an inclusive transit service to our customers. So, it's funny how, let's just say they were being very racist. It's like saying that doesn't do anything. But we're a diverse city. Well, you could still be racist in a diverse city. Just saying. Just logically, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't bolster your argument. But he said all members of the TTC's transit enforcement. It's like, I got a Black friend. TTC enforcement unit receives training on diversity and human rights, and more than half of them identified as racialized minorities. But that is something that is kind of a little more consistent, or. Like in America, I'm pretty sure that the more harsh, like people that are more harsh on Black criminals tend to be like Black cops, right? And I've heard from somebody, right, when it comes to like judges, some criminals would rather have like maybe a white one because sometimes they're more harsh on Black people, like other Black judges, because they're kind of like, hey, you're misrepresenting us and you're making us look bad, blah blah blah, and then they put them down. So it's like, if half their transit people are, I don't know, diverse or something, it's like, I don't know, are they tracking down which people are giving out tickets if they happen to be white or Black or Asian? Are the race of the officers taken down too? Because that would also play into it, wouldn't it? Right? If they're all worried about these numbers and keeping track of them and shit, that would also be consistent. Wouldn't that play a role? Because what if they found out that all the people that were giving fines disproportionately to Black people were, I don't know, Asian or something? Like, no, we don't need to know that. We'll just assume it's white people or something. He said all members of the some anti-racism advocates say the ticketing numbers, which resemble data the Star reported on earlier this year. Yeah, of course you did. Of course you reported on it earlier this year about written cautions. Remember this? I remember this story too. Written cautions issued on TTC riders are proof of what members of Toronto's Black community. I love how people can call themselves like Black community. Can I say I'm the white community of Winnipeg? Winnipeg's white community is very angry. Shut up, you nationalist, racist community. But that's just something that bothers me. I'm not saying, but just any group can do it. Like Toronto's Asian community, Toronto's Black community, Toronto's Aboriginal community.
Well, they do that, but they subdivide the white community down to like the Italian community, Croatian community, whatever.
Well, why aren't they doing it like what? But they could still do. They're still saying black, like that.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah.
that's all groups. That's
Mhm.
Caribbean, African, fucking all those
True.
nations. Senegal, South Africans, Eritrean, whatever. Right? Like that's all these. They're just amalgamating all these groups together. And saying we're fighting for these groups that are all distinct from one another, but they're all going to group them all together.
Yep.
But it's okay to say the black community or something, or the Asian community or the Asian community, because that's a whole group of people. That includes Pakistanis, that includes East Asians, South Asians, all these different groups of people. But that's just a comment I'm just making, because I'm like,
okay.
I think we've all made that observation before, right? It's not a new observation or anything like that.
Okay.
Like, I can't use say white people or something, but Toronto's black community have complained about it for years. But I'm just saying, every time I read stuff now, a lot of the times when I read how groups are identifying themselves, I'm just like, it's just I just think about the double standard. But the transit officers singled them out. I'm extremely disappointed, but I am not the least bit surprised, said Pascal Diverless, co-founder of Black Lives Matter Toronto. We have been sharing our experiences literally for decades. Black people disproportionately are saying we are being targeted. Okay, so once again, the majority of black people in Canada have come here voluntarily recently and are immigrants. Like recently, like first, not all of them. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying a lot of the people, like this guy is probably complaining, maybe his mom is recent. I don't know, but it's like, fuck, man. We've been sharing our experiences literally for decades. Black people disproportionately are saying we've been targeted. The TTC says that statistics obtained by the Star aren't reliable because TTC officers didn't record race on more than 33,000 of the 80,000 tickets issued over the 11-year period. The 18.5% of tickets given to black riders only relates to tickets on which race was recorded. So Diverless described the TTC's position that the data isn't reliable as an avoidance of responsibility, particularly when taken in conjunction with personal accounts from black riders who say they've experienced bias on the system. She argued any discrimination encountered on the TTC is particularly damaging because people require access to the transit system for basic needs, such as getting to work, food, picking up kids from school. It's an attack on black people. So, it's an attack on white people. Shut up, white nationalist. Brighton Cherrier called me a racist right now, but it's disproportionately attack on low-income black people, particularly who rely heavily on transit system to navigate their daily lives, she said. Isaiah Lay, 24, said he believes race was a factor in why he was fined for not paying a fare last year. In an interview, he recalled. Go ahead. Sorry.
These people who play the victim card will eventually be the part of the fate of the boy who played, who cried wolf, right?
Oh yeah.
You find that history repeats itself, and the bigger the victim, the bigger the fall. Right? You're going to see this with the homosexual community. You're going to see these with these Black Lives Matter people.
It's funny you mentioned that because, I was gonna talk about this one article too about that story where they're trying to use that kid with the drowning kid to try to pull some heartstrings on people. In America, where they're like, hey, there's a drowning boy and a daughter. Here, look at the picture. Feel for this.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. Right now, Washington Post writes an article, and they're like, pretty much saying you're all pieces of shit, and only a people with no heart can really do this. And like, look at this Syrian boy laying on the beach. Look at him. He's dead.
Yeah.
This worked before. It's not working now.
Yeah,
But
when it talked about when the original Syrian crisis came up, it was a picture of children being gassed. That was the impetus for the world to jump in. So these tactics are not new. We talked to you a little bit yesterday when we were doing that little, I think when I jumped into Fred's stream a little bit later in the evening, and talking about like the history. We're talking about the history of the manipulation that's been done to get the West to intervene in foreign conflicts. It goes back hundreds of years, probably at least a couple hundred years, whether it be for corporate interests or social interests. So this is a well-worn playbook, but hey, the hits work. I mean, so they keep going back to it. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on the story?
Yeah. Oh, I could finish this one out because this guy, he's got like, there's a few accounts of people that are just, you'll see. In an interview, he recalled that he tried to tap his Presto card, but the fare reader at the door he entered was broken. So I'm gonna say that's probably a lie.
Actually, that happens all the time. The Presto readers have been notoriously unreliable, so that is actually entirely possible.
When the streetcar pulled into the Spadina station, Leia and his friends got off and encountered 3 TTC officers. His friends walked ahead, but Leia, who is 6'1" and at the time had his hair in an afro and was wearing a hooded sweatshirt that had "Stolen from Africa" written on it, said as he walked by, the officers, who were white, stopped him, but no one else. So it's just important to let you guys know that they were white and that he's black with a fro. And he's 6'1". Okay, a fare inspector used the scanner to check his Presto card, which showed he hadn't paid. When he realized that he was the only one not getting a ticket, Leia said he may have reacted angrily, at which point the demeanor of the officers became confrontational. Well, you know what? People really need to learn how to fucking deal with police officers. Like, I see this all the time. Why are you pulling me over? I didn't do nothing wrong. I didn't do nothing wrong. They get like, they're struggling, and you're like, stop struggling. Stop struggling. Like, what are you doing? Just stop moving. Like, let them apprehend you, man. You'll be better off dealing with them later than getting yes, cops are dicks, man. A lot of them are dicks. A lot of them will look for a fucking excuse to like beat your fucking head in a few times or something, right? Not all. I'm saying a lot of cops are dicks. So don't give them fucking an excuse to rough you up. For fuck's sakes, man. Like, not even that these people did it, but they should have roughed up this kid anyways. But after they wrote him a ticket, Leia said 2 officers followed him down the subway platform, which made him feel harassed. You already gave me a ticket. I'm already going away from you. Why do you feel you need to follow me? Told the Star. The TTC's Green said it's not agency policy for officers to follow riders over a fare evasion ticket. And it's possible the inspectors were finishing their shift or intended to take the subway to a different location. Leia was clear that none of the officers said anything about his race or engaged in overtly racist behavior during the interaction, but he was left with the impression that if he hadn't been a young black man in a hood and sweatshirt, he might not have received a ticket. So what is he, Trayvon Martin or something? White, like since when does Toronto turn into Baltimore or Detroit or something, right? I think a lot of people really want to make it out to be that.
Mm-hmm.
They really want it to be that, so they can like have street cred like those people do and be like, I'm from Toronto, where like shit happens and there's thugs and shit too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's what it is. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but why do people want it to be like that? Like, I don't.
Because they have no identity. They have no they have no foundation, and so they look to mass media to try and find that, because they don't have that in their community, and glom onto the images that are put out by an industry which is trying to make money, and by people who are putting out those images who don't live those lifestyles either, who are living a lie. So it's pretty ridiculous. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean we're people just have to look at something as clear as like as dark, but as clear as like a murder rate or rate of shootings. And as much as things have increased in Toronto the last probably year or two or a few years, we are nowhere close to even the 50th in the United States or anywhere. Cities that, even in terms of like neighborhoods do you go to, like, I mean, you can pretty much walk around anywhere in Toronto, especially during the day, and have a relative chance of safety. There are some neighborhoods in the US you do not go to, and they pop up super quick. Like, you know, you'll be in a perfectly fine neighborhood 1 second, you cross the street, and what the heck did I walk into?
Right.
That kind of thing does not happen. Like, it's people don't really appreciate what they have here. And they're trying to turn it into something it's not, which is crazy.
Yeah, but who cares about the TTC? Sucks anyway. It's a piece of shit. It's the worst fucking transit system in the world. They never put enough money into it. Then they build something that, you know, they keep bringing hordes of people into the city, and they'll never keep up with capacity. So
and it's consistently ranked the best in North America, which means that the rest of the systems in North America are even worse, which is crazy to me.
The rest of North America, Toronto's a fucking joke. If you watch the transit systems in Hong Kong or Tianjin or, you know, Toisan, fuck.
China. Yeah, of course. Okay.
I'm just saying, when they build shit there, like when they want to do it right, they fucking do a real good job. And, you know, and it's all privatized. There's no government money being, you know, put into the system. They're not ripping off their citizens. They rip them off in other ways, but, you know, for the most part, they're all private companies. Like in Hong Kong, the transit system is run by 3 different private companies.
But they're not even like technically like a part of, like they are part, but it's like a weird relationship they have with China.
Well, in 5 or 4 years, they're going to be like all China. This is why they're protesting.
Yeah,
I love those guys. They broke into the city council building. So it's just amazing guys. So, you know,
wasn't that where the British were in Hong Kong?
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's why they enjoy it.
Well, it kind of seems like colonization isn't so bad, right?
Not for them.
Not for them. No, I'm kidding. There's terrible aspects, but there's but I'm just saying there's some good comes of it.
Well, yeah, like HSBC. We all love that bank, right? hiding money all over the world for the super rich, and funding dictators. So great.
Colonization did that.
Well, they're headquartered in Hong Kong, so yes.
Oh well, that's a colonization.
What are you talking about? Sorry, I missed that comment. I was reading Boingo Bear's comment.
I don't want to talk about China. What's your funny story, Fred?
All right, I just AJ, are you finished with the articles?
Not yet. White transit users also appear to be overrepresented in the data, also to a lesser extent than black riders. So, you know, they're also overrepresented. Roughly 56% of tickets on which the person's race was recorded listed as subjects as white. About 43% of people who commute by public transit in Toronto are white, according to the census. So, Indigenous riders also appear overly represented, roughly 4%, you know, and they're only represent 1% of the population. So, like, a lot of people are overrepresented.
Yeah.
Well, some aspect. Go ahead.
Well, the whole story is a lot of nothing. Like, I read this earlier, and I thought about bringing it up as well. But when I read that part, you read that what was it, 80,000 cards, and only 30,000 of them actually had the race on it. It's like, well, throw the whole thing. TTC's right. Throw the whole thing out, because the numbers are not at all.
They're not allowed.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I say throw the whole thing out, I mean they can't throw the whole thing out, but I mean throw out the analysis. You're you're doing analysis of junk numbers, because that 30, if it was like 1,000, fine, right? But if it's 30,000 out of 80,000 or something, that's a huge. It's 40%. That's a huge percentage of the data. And yeah, you can take a look at what's there, but with a massive grain of salt. And then what you do, if you want to use this information for positive things, and of course there's no actual conclusions that said so in the article, then you say, okay, you know what, there might be an issue, so we're going to make sure our enforcement officers record raise for the next year and take a look at this data in a year to see if the same overrepresentation extrapolates, to see if we really do have an issue here. And then, okay, why are they committing these crimes? Are they legitimate? Yada, yada, yada. Like, I mean, this whole thing is a vague nothing burger to me, because they need to go back and to take a deeper look at this data.
Well, just like you're saying, or like, while some aspects of the data are disputed, others show clear patterns of inconsistent reporting.
Yes.
For example, from 2008 to 14, the vast majority of tickets that listed the person's race were given to either Black, white, or Indigenous people for those years. The number of tickets given to Asian riders each year was in the single digits. For instance, in 2008, the TTC gave out 3,532 tickets. Only 2 of them are listed going to Asians. It's unlikely that so few Asian customers got tickets that year. So it's like, yeah, that's just based on like statistical averages. That's pretty much impossible. By 2016, however, the numbers of tickets that recorded the customer as Asian jumped significantly. That year, Asian riders accounted for 24.7% of the tickets, which race was listed. So look at that. It goes from 2 to 24.7%. Like, that's a huge jump. And you see, the Star is going to make a fucking headline with Black people being disproportionately, when all the data is completely fucking bonkers and nut, like, just like you're saying, if you actually go and read the article, right? But like I said, most people don't read the article. They just read the headline, and then they're with that impression.
Yep.
They don't know how bullshit it is.
Exactly. And then they're left thinking that, and actually Fred and I talked a little bit about how numbers can be played with. We talked about an article yesterday about the gender and a number of people who think that they might be gay or homosexual based on some study, and the way the numbers were manipulated was just, we spent about 20 minutes just tearing this thing up and playing around with it. It was just terrible the way they play with this stuff, and this article is a great example of that kind of nonsense.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, like so 84% of all tickets last year were given to men. So like, clearly this is a bias against men. Why is nobody talking about this? 84% of all tickets to men. Everybody's just like, well, yeah, obviously. It's like, it's funny how like that's usually just I'm sure we don't make up 84% of the people who travel on the transit. It's like wildly disproportionate. I'm not saying it's not justified. It probably is. Like, it's probably accurate, and that's probably around the number that should be showing for like disturbances on the TTC or whatever, right? But still, that's not a convenient thing. They can't get anything out of that. But they can't change policy, or they can't pull on heartstrings, or push a narrative or whatever.
Yep. Well, they know the heartstrings. They know how to manipulate things and go from there. Yeah.
Right. So they're like, the civil liberties. Noah Melson, director of Canadian Civil Liberties Associated Equality Program, said the numbers are certainly concerning and suggest an overrepresentation of Black people. Frankly, bewildering. The TTC doesn't keep what it considers accurate data. We need data that allows public to determine whether they are treating the population fairly and without discrimination, she said. But see, then that would cause a whole other issue, and they'd be like, well, why are you keeping data on race and this and that, and this is racist. So you feel like, okay, so let's stop keeping, and then you stop keeping. Well, why aren't you keeping data on race? Now we can't know about this and that. Like, there's no winning. There's no winning with those people. You're just fucked either way. With respect to race-based data, we believe it's important to collect this information in a proper and consistent manner. So how do you collect race? Is it, I guess, because they had an issue before with what the TTC was doing when they were like, they weren't fining people, but they were like when they wouldn't pay, but they would write down, I don't know, certain aspects of them or something. So then they could, like, I guess, probably to build a profile or something, or not profile, but to be like, okay, this person hasn't paid like 5 times in a row. Okay, now we're going to give them a ticket or something. Like, I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this fucking story. Fredrick, you wanted to share a story there?
Yeah, just on talk about, you mentioning men and men getting targeted. So let me just share my screen here for a second. Just a couple of funny stories, right? So you guys see my screen? So this happened in BC. Where else, right? Naked woman tells her story. So naked woman seen sitting outside the Kelowna RCMP detachment has come forward with her story. The woman, who wishes to stay anonymous, I don't know how you can when you're sitting buck naked in the middle of the street, says she decided to strip down out of protest over an altercation that took place on Friday night. I was assaulted by a bouncer at Fernando's pub. I was asked to leave due to an altercation with the bouncer. Well, women can always twist shit that goes into their favor. And I'm going to play a video. It's really hilarious, right? She claims that she was assaulted. So I told him I would walk out myself, and he forcibly removed me. He ended up choking me, the woman claims. She says she fled the scene right after the incident because she felt overwhelmed. I ended up going to La Kelowna General Hospital at 2 a.m. They said I had soft tissue damage in the neck, and I tried calling the RCMP to give a statement, but they were unresponsive. So this is the kind of shit why it's now really hard to believe women when it's authentic or not, because a lot of the time they'll come out and say shit against a man, and they, just to spite him, right? Just to get him in trouble. She tried calling the police 3 times in the span of 12 hours with no response. That's when she decided to take matters into her own hands. I phoned 911 in dispatch and even went so far as to call the fire department while I was sitting naked on the RCMP detachment. I told them there was a fire. So you could see she's just trying to cause shit, right? So yeah, I said that I was fuming and that I was the fire and they needed to put me out. So she's obviously a fucking nutty. I sat here for 15 minutes naked until the RCMP officers who came back to talk to me. They sexualized me by telling me to zip up my vest. So they sexualized her by telling her, you shouldn't, public indecency is against the law. So you should put some clothes on, right?
Once you're gay in a gay pride parade month, then you could be a degenerate on the streets.
Or you're some woman, claiming victimology. I said no, that I'm allowed to be topless in public. That's not topless. And and he said it was very distracting. RCMP handcuffed the woman and took her to a Kelowna General Hospital where she's being assessed. I feel my actions weren't too extreme in lieu of the circumstances. She's delusional, right? So let me just play this here. Typical, average, normal, regular, standard woman, MGTOW, right? So this guy is taping this woman because there's been incidences where she's called people and said this guy was beating, she was being beaten by this guy. So he decided to tape her. And I'll just play this for the folks so you can see this. Hold on a sec. Let me put on the list.
Give me the recording, John!
What the hell is this?
John! Give me the
Okay, so
Now of me.
the guy is trying to get into his truck, and he's recording her for her behavior because she's made all these bullshit claims that he hit her and stuff, and he's got witnesses where she's beating him, right? So he's breaking up with her. He just wants to get in his car, take off, and she says, delete the recording. So this is how she's acting. So I'll just continue playing this.
Yes, I am. I'm just letting you know I'm recording you.
Give it to me right now. No, give it to me.
So this can be proven in court.
No.
Get out of my
No,
truck.
I won't.
Sherry.
No, please don't.
Hi, Joe. Can you come over?
No.
They're coming over. She's right there.
No, don't leave. No, you're killing me.
What do you want me to do? I don't understand. I'm not doing anything wrong.
No.
Are you kidding me?
No.
This is why we treat women like children.
So how old do you guys think she is?
46.
Wow. Okay, I don't think she's that old. I think she's in her 30s. But
What?
I'd say she's in her. She got one of those faces where it's like she could be like 28 or she could be 48. I can't really tell there.
She's like 46. She's like in her 40s.
I
Late
think she's
30s.
Either way, she's too
Early
damn old to
40s.
be having that kind of tantrum. That's ridiculous.
She's old, man.
It's only like 7 minutes, but
Let's
she
ask the chat
has
about how old they think she is. Chat, how old do
She
you
has
think she is?
there.
Yeah,
And
Chad,
she's-
how old?
I think he's like 4, but the guy's like, that's not my kid. So I'll just continue.
Oh, no, please.
I'd still do her.
What do you mean to do? What do you want me to do? I don't need to just leave me, just go. I don't know what I can do to make you better. Like, where do I go from here to make it better? I don't understand. So you need to.
You're killing me, John. You're killing me. You're killing me. You're killing me.
Come on.
No.
Get out of my truck.
She won't leave.
Get out of my truck.
That's why we need white Sharia.
So women's rights, right? Men,
This
guy is
women
being
want to be treated like
extremely
children. That's why you gotta be like, no, enough is enough. You shut up. You're not getting what you want.
I'd be like losing my mind. I'd be like, get the fuck out of my car now. It's this. Listen to this. Okay, I don't know if you guys are hearing this. So the kid came out, right? And he's upset because his mom's freaking out. And she switches, like her tone switches. She's like, get in the house now. And then she goes back to, oh, don't leave me. The guy's like, hey, bud, are you okay? And she's like, he's your kid. And the guy's like, no, he's not my kid. I'll forward it a little bit.
Protecting myself. This is a protection.
So I'll just give a little bit of commentary. I'll try to forward a little bit to kind of speed this up. But basically, she also, the guy says, you've been seen going out with the other guys. It's just, her tone changes from that kind of like to, no, I didn't date any guy. Prove it. Right? Yeah, she's a mother.
Is that what it is? Is that why she's crying? Because she cheated on him? And he caught her?
No, because he wants to break up, right? He's like, I've had it with your behavior. And the guy's, he said that he's seen her with other men. There's other people that it's like, I guess it's a small town or something or whatever. People know them.
Oh, okay.
And so he's breaking up with her and he's recording her behavior because he wants this on record because she's known to actually go out and make claims that he hit her and shit like that, right? But, he's doing the right thing.
Come on in, bud.
No.
You beat me yesterday in Gold's parking lot. I got
You beat me yesterday in some parking lot.
6 witnesses. So like, go ahead, like, huh?
Mosquito stuff on me.
You want some mosquito stuff? Okay. Go on
That's the
inside
kid.
real quick and I'll get it. The hydro. Leave my shit alone and get out, please.
Hope she had the kid taken away after this. Ridiculous.
I'm protecting myself. Yes, I am.
Right.
You got it on another one.
Stay in the house.
Are you good, Bubba?
Now she see how she switches her tone?
Stay in the house.
Are you
She's
good,
yelling
Bubba?
at the kid.
Shouldn't let him out here. Go
Okay.
in the house.
Are those-
right
You
now.
got it on.
Is that
Stay
the
in the
kid?
house.
Is that their kid?
There you go.
That's not
Take
his
this in
kid. That's someone
Stay in
else's
the-
kid. So I don't know where the father is, but the kid's coming out, and the guy's like, is everything okay? You all right? And then she starts yelling at him to go back in the house.
Stay in the house.
Are you good, Bubba? Come here. There you go. Take this in with you. Give me a kiss. Love you, dude.
Delete the video, and I will leave.
It's still
Delete
going.
the video,
It's still going.
and I will
I'm
leave.
not doing nothing.
Delete. Susan,
Go
get
ahead,
in the
Daddy.
house now. Delete the video, and I will leave. Delete it now. Delete it now, and I will be done. Just delete it. Why
I've had a
you
girlfriend
do
like this
to
before.
me?
What are you doing in my
Why
truck?
are you
Why are you
doing
getting in my
this
truck?
to me?
You're getting in my truck and terrorizing
No,
myself.
I'm not even done anything to it.
Like, she's just making it worse for herself by acting like a lunatic. Like,
Yesterday.
Delete the video right
He'll probably let her
now.
keep the kid. He'll still probably get you. Look at this. She's fucking up all his shit in his car.
You have no idea. I just want this to be over.
Hey, sorry I missed your call. I was just calling you back to let you know that I love you and I miss you.
That's the kid. That's the kid leaving the message to the guy. But yeah, that's basically it. So when you read stories like this about women, I don't know. Like there was years ago there was like this movement, like always believe a woman, always believe a woman.
Well,
right?
that was last year, but okay. It wasn't that long ago.
Remember Mattress Girl and the guy, this bitch, this whore, when the story came out? I forgot which university it was. And the guy, the school kicked him out. And this stupid bitch was carrying this mattress around. And when people started coming out, like, yeah, she slept with this guy, that guy, this guy. And the guy said, I didn't want to have anything more to deal with you. And she started claiming, oh, he raped me and shit, which was completely untrue. It was proven. He's been vindicated and shit. But she ruined his career, right? He got kicked out of school and, he's got that, carries that black stain. So I just thought it would be a really funny thing to bring. Yeah, Justin Cringe channel, he knows what I'm talking about. Show Mattress Girl. But anyways, that's what I wanted to share. I'll show Mattress Girl another time.
don't show her. Okay. But yeah, that was getting annoying after a while. Her voice was very grating after a while, but I wouldn't have released that myself. I don't know. like she's got some mental illness or something. She's clearly crazy, or I don't know what the fuck is the matter with her, but that was ridiculous.
It's Elizabeth
Sorry?
May, so is Merkel, Elizabeth May, Chrystia Freeland. They're all mental.
That's true.
But I have one more story. This kid's kind of. I finished this guy's book, Canada in Decay. I think I mentioned it to you before. Ricardo. How do you pronounce his last name? Ducanese. He's French. Fuck. You Frenchy. Always with the weird names.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce this name?
I don't know. What do you? Sorry. What's his name?
Ricardo Duchesne.
Duchesne? Duchesne?
Duchelme? Like, let me see. Like, I can't see the
Right
name.
now. Here.
That's not even like French. Duchesne. That's not even.
Yeah.
Well, he's French, but he's you know from
But that
the,
last name isn't French, so but maybe he is French, but the last name itself.
So this guy wrote a book called Canada in Decay, talks about how history is being rewritten, especially Canadian history in schools, from grade school to high school to universities, right? And the HuffPost did a hit piece on this guy, right? So they were actually trying to get him expelled from the Atlantic universities that he teaches at. June 4th, following the publication of this article, Ricardo Duquesne took early retirement amid an ongoing University of New Brunswick investigation into his conduct, and over 100 of his colleagues condemning his views as racist without academic merit in an open letter, which is untrue. If you read through his book, he's not racist at all. Ricardo Duc is, and which is not true, by the way. This didn't
Yeah, I've
happen.
seen him.
Yeah,
On
Ricardo. I'll just say his first name. Ricardo is a professor at the University of New Brunswick. He publicly funded the institution of Canada's oldest English language university. He teaches undergraduate sociology classes, holds tenure, and has been quoted in the New York Times as on immigration. He is also a white supremacist. Boom! They just hit him with that. They just fucking like, how do you go from 0 to 60 like that, right? Ricardo's writings are filled with racist conspiracy theories. That's untrue. I could read, maybe on a separate video, I'll do some readings from his book. And he is a frequent contributor to white nationalist propaganda sites that feature articles defending slavery and eugenics. Wow. So where are these websites? He has appeared on white nationalist podcast. Where he claimed there was a systemic rape of white women by immigrants, and his talks are celebrated by neo-Nazis. Like this, I can't believe this shit. Like the vitriol. This is like how my wife might say, like it stings. Right? They're really sharp with these words. Ricardo's most recent book was released by an obscure publishing house whose small group of authors includes other fringe racists as well as Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the Holocaust. I don't know that. Like the book here is Black House Publishing. Maybe he had to go to another publisher because he can't go through the normal channels. And yet, Ricardo continues to teach at the University of New Brunswick, despite his extremist views and what other academics describe as shoddy scholarship and unsound methods. As he hides behind the protection of academic freedom, professors and extremist researchers say Ricardo is peddling white supremacist views, while the university's leadership is unable or unwilling to intervene. So watch this statement. He's pushing white supremacist ideals, but in the same fucking article, they said over 100 of his colleagues are condemning his views. If that was true, he would be out. Chris, we all know this, right? But it didn't happen. He is an embarrassment to the University of New Brunswick, said Carrie Jang, a psychiatry professor at the University of British Columbia and former Vancouver City Councillor. Carrie Jang. From BC, and a Vancouver City Councillor. Just string that shit together, right? Now, I'm not going to go on with this, but there is a website dedicated to. There's ratemymd.com. There's ratemyemployer.ca and ratemyprofessor.com. Now there's ratemyracistprofessor.com, and he's made the list here. I don't know who put this together. Dr. Ricardo is a professor at the department, so it goes here. The university chose to stand behind Dr. Ricardo Duquesne despite the accusations of race. They couldn't even fucking their spelling sucks. Dr. Ducanese and bad scholarship from his colleagues. The cited academic
It's
freedom.
Duchesne. I think somebody was saying in the chat.
Okay, Duchesne. Thank you, guys. Robert McKinnon, vice president of New Brunswick's St. John campus, didn't endorse Duchesne's comments, but said that the academic freedom is a foundational principle of university life. Often, he said, such academic debate expresses views that may be perceived as controversial and unpopular. Now, this guy, his response here, this is really funny. I don't know if you know where this statement comes from. Give me your tired and huddled masses. You know this? Are you familiar with this, AJ?
Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that was put on the Statue of Liberty way much later by a Jewish communist poet who put that there.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah. Like, anyways, so I thought I'd bring that up because I like this guy's work. I think Canada in Decay, Mass Immigration Diversity, and the Ethnocide of Euro-Canadians is a very good read. He not racist at all. Like there isn't, he doesn't take any particular group and says that this group is responsible for that. He just outlines the proper history of Canada, and yeah, pick up the book and read it. But I thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, right. Well, anybody who gets labeled racist by the mainstream media these days, and a lot of these people on the left, it essentially is just a beacon for you to go and read their stuff, is like an indication to go and actually, see what they're about, right? Because they're probably lying about them, or they're probably saying something really interesting at the very least. But it's getting pretty late, guys. I'm getting pretty tired. I got to wake up really early in the morning for work in the morning. But thank you all for joining us. I hope you all guys all had a great night. Hit the like, subscribe button, like, share, and also Fred or Chris, if you got any last words, go ahead.
Well, join us on Saturday for the TCR stream. And thanks for coming out. Appreciate that.
Chris, any last words? He's probably watching the football or the basketball game or something.
Probably. I think he fell asleep. But there he is.
No, I didn't fall asleep. My microphone is just doing weird. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay,
sorry. My microphone is just doing weird things. No, I'm not on the Kawhi watch trying to see what's happening. So don't worry. No, just thanks for joining us, folks. Thanks for joining us, folks, and we'll chat on Saturday.
Perfect. All right, guys. Have a good night. Hope you all enjoy the stream. Take it easy, guys. Peace.
Bye.